Hello ladies and gents, PepperBelly here, bringing you guys another video of ArcheAge. If you guys watched the last one, I was pretty vague in description of what this game actually has to offer because I was pretty much just telling you guys that I found a new MMO, I'm addicted to it, and I've been playing it non-stop ever since. So now I'm actually going to go in a little bit more in depth with the actual game mechanics, what this game has to offer, and why it's so different compared to most games out there that are in the MMO bracket. So first we're going to do a little bit of brief history on ArcheAge and what this game actually is. It was developed by XL Games in Korea. It was released in Korea and Japan last year, roughly around January that time. And then it's an open beta right now. It was released in Russia, and now it's being westernized for North America. So it's on its way here. It's in alpha right now, and even though it's in the alpha stage, you got to keep in mind that the game has already been completed, technically. It's only being westernized, if you want to kind of use that word loosely. It's being transformed into a game that's more acceptable for us in Western culture compared to, obviously, Eastern culture. And they're not going to completely rehaul the game. They're not changing a lot. They're basically just keeping the core mechanics of the way the game is fundamentally driven, and then they're going to just change a few things, like adding English language. Like, pretty much just making it that, you know, like giving us that, changing a little bit of some of the structures and mechanics itself, just to kind of make it a little bit more familiar and homey for the rest of us that live in the Western area that want to experience this game, and to not be completely foreign to the way that we're used to playing MMOs. That being said, does it feel like a JRPG? Does it feel like it's something I've never played before? And does it feel something like it's completely foreign? No, it really doesn't. It offers a lot of nice attributes and different kind of mechanics at the game to a traditional MMO that most games here do not have. And as small examples, what you're seeing right here, I have to raise my pet. This is a pet I got from a quest. It's a white wolfhound, and you actually have to raise it by feeding it, taking care of it, entertaining it, and of course washing it, and all that kind of stuff. And then it grows up, and it doesn't take that long, by the way. You're not going to expect to sit here for like 5 days raising a pet. It does it all in one sitting. In fact, you'll see the entire uprising of this pet through this video. And eventually it grows up into a full mature pet, and you can put it in your inventory, and then it's yours. You can use it in combat, it can follow you around, etc. It's fantastic, and I like how they actually have that. Now, not all pets have to be, like, risen. You don't have to raise them all yourself. Because I've actually gotten a fox, a rare Arctic fox, which just spawns in. You don't have to raise that. But some animals, some mounts, some pets, you actually have to raise specifically yourself, which I think is actually pretty awesome. I'm not gonna lie. I mean, it appeals to me how you actually have to put a little bit more work into obtaining your mounts and your pets compared to just going out there and buying it. Feels a little bit more like old school traditional MMOs where you actually have to put a lot of work into getting the things you want, which I think is awesome. Like you're gonna see later in this video, I build myself a speedboat. It's a harpoon clipper, and it's really cool. It took me a few days to actually gather everything I needed for it. Obviously, I went and bought the materials through the auction house because actually obtaining that materials for free, and it's not really free, but actually obtaining it by getting it manually through intense labor would take forever because it's actually pretty intense how that actually unfolds. So now I'm going to talk a little bit about what the game actually offers in tradition to most MMOs. 1, it's a player-driven economy influenced by the players. The only other MMO I think of that does this as accurately and as well is EVE Online. So think of an entire world that could be manipulated and changed due to player progression and player influence. That's basically what this game offers without actually being in space like EVE Online. And I think it did a really damn good job of it because it's really, really cool how things actually unfold. Most MMOs, I'm going to relate this to World of Warcraft because I spent literally tens, thousands of hours, and I played a lot of World of Warcrafts, and I've been looking for a game to give me that vanilla WoW experience, and so far this is doing it for me. But I'm going to do a little bit of comparison here. Now, you think of World of Warcraft, usually there's obviously early game, mid game, and end game. Everyone knows that, right? Early game is getting up to the level in which you can start doing a few dungeons, you can start actually doing a little bit more PvP, stuff like that, right? You're gradually increasing yourself to become, you're leveling up. The whole early game is a leveling process. Everyone knows that. Getting familiar with the game, how things work, learning your new abilities, etc., your spells, all that jazz. Then eventually, you get to mid-game where it's a little bit more dynamic, where you're trying to figure out what kind of character you want to be. You start adapting your playstyle, you start figuring out exactly what you want, and you prepare for endgame by questing and doing a few dungeons and getting used to how all those things work. And then you get to endgame, and then you're actually doing all these PvP, dungeons, battlegrounds, arenas, all that stuff. Okay, that's like World of Warcraft. Then you think of ArcheAge, it's a little bit different. There's the early game, which is the same thing. You get familiar with the game, you learn how things work, you do all that. And then you get to mid-game, and which is pretty much where I'm at right now, which is like level 20 to 35-ish, which you're starting to figure out exactly what you want to do, exactly how your character works, and you're starting to understand a little bit more of the game mechanics, you're starting to be able to do more dungeons, and you're just starting to get into a little bit of PvP, which, frankly, I've done. And then, of course, endgame, which is what completely changes everything. Endgame is quite literally a whole choice, a whole slew of options of what you can actually decide what you want to do. You can become an outlaw, go be a pirate. You can be a bounty hunter, hunting criminals and pirates. You can be a trader. You can be a mercenary. You can start an entire guild, build an entire fleet of galleons, clippers, variety of different ships, and provide escort for traders. Or you can just simply roam the seas and hunt down pirates. You can do whatever the hell you want. The game's options are literally unlimited. You can do whatever you want. You can be a farmer. You can build your farms. You can grow your crops, create trade packs, sell those to member or other players who actually want to trade them, go on the journey of trading them. You each split a profit. There's a variety of ways you can actually go about enjoying this game. There's so much to do. The possibilities are literally endless. Like there's a lot. There's a lot to do. And that alone is one of the main reasons why this game flourishes and has a great system compared to most traditional MMOs in the Western world. A lot of games don't offer this level of in-depth customization and abilities to do literally various tasks and have different jobs and do whatever you want to actually win and strive and create your character to become the ultimate power in the world, which sounds really cheesy, because it is. But basically, what I'm trying to say, this game has a variety of options, a whole slew of options. I'm going to give scenarios out just to kind of give you guys an idea. Now, obviously, there can be possibilities for guilds to completely control large amounts of landmass, because everyone knows you can own land. Okay, you can purchase land, you pay taxes for your land, you own the land. Okay, for example, I have a scarecrow garden. It's a little garden thing, which you can grow crops, whatever you want, create trade packs, and sell them. And that thing costs about 1 gold a month for taxes, which isn't bad at all. But obviously, the bigger your house is, depending on where you live in the environment, those taxes can steadily increase and get more and more over time. Now, obviously, guilds, like I'm talking massive guilds, can easily just go and control everything. Zerg rush everything and control the vast majority of the landmass, which has been done already. Okay, this is the alpha. There's one server. Everyone plays on this one server. It's been done. And there's actually been a few people who are saying that they've actually gotten paid to take their garden or their farmland down and move somewhere else by these guilds. These guilds would go up to them, they'd offer them a bunch of supplies, a whole bunch of gold, and be like, if you move, then we'll give you all this if you will move so we can expand our land because we want it to be ours. Just like real life, right? If someone wants your property for something, they will offer you a ton of money so you can move and they'll take your property. Same kind of idea. And if you disagree, then obviously the guild will probably take a little bit more hostile action, or they'll see whatever, you know, it depends on what they want to do as a result, or they probably try to bring up the price, offer you more, just try to convince you to leave so they can continue to build and expand their environment, what they own, which is awesome. You know, like the fact that players can do this sort of thing. You know, there will actually be eventually, and I'm going to predict this because the way the game plays, it's going to happen, there will be truces between various guilds. So you'll see maybe one guild who, you know, wants to own a particular part of land, another guild who wants to have a particular trade route on the ocean to go to a specific area, and instead of interacting and going to war with one another, they'll have a truce, so they'll agree not to interfere with one another, and they'll just kind of own everything. You know, these two guilds can, ultimately, I picture it being like, eventually it'll be like 1 or 2 or 3 or 4 guilds who are actually going to run the entire area because they've grown that big. How do you combat that? Well, simply put, you combat it. People are going to be like, oh, well, these guilds are going to become so powerful and so massive that it's going to be impossible to take them on. Well, that's where literally player strategy comes in. Like, think of guerrilla warfare, you know what I mean? Like hit and run tactics. You and your small group of guys can do whatever you can to try to break down their influence in the area. You know, diminish their resources, whatever it takes to actually stop this guild from becoming the massive, huge entity that it could become, completely controlling the entire environment, you know, controlling over every single person that's there. That is a possibility. but players can influence and drastically change that inevitability, which is freaking awesome. Players can influence everything that happens in the world, and I think that's one of the coolest components of this game. So if none of that convinces you that this game is completely and vastly different from traditional MMOs and the Western culture, then I don't know what will, because that alone is something completely dynamic from most MMOs. Like I said, the only other game that even comes close to this, or does something very similar, does it very, very well, is EVE Online, but that's a spacefaring simulation. Well, not really simulation, but it's a spacefaring sci-fi type of game where you're flying through space, and you know, there's low security space where bandits and, you know, bad things can happen to you, and you can get your stuff stolen, and you can get blown up and killed and whatever. That kind of happens here too. Mostly happens on the open ocean, alright? Like, if you think about the open ocean, everyone has their ships. Think of the ocean as space, and then compare it to EVE Online. It's very similar, except you're actually able to move around and run around on your ship, and able to board other people's ships and kill them, and take their trade packs and blow up their ships and do whatever you gotta do. And it's really, really cool, because pirates tend to do that a lot. They roam the oceans, and you gotta realize there's gonna be a lot of them, because the only places they can actually go are islands out in the middle of the ocean that aren't really controlled by either alliance, either faction, and that's the only safe place they can go, because if they go back to the major land masses like what I'm on right now, NPCs and everything will try to kill them because they're outlaws, right? They're no longer criminals, they're outlaws. You get enough infamy points that eventually you're considered to be just an outlaw, right? Nobody wants anything to do with you, you don't belong to any alliance, and then you no longer get those criminal type infamy points, which is what you get for doing crimes, and you go to trial for it, and when you stand at trial, depending on how much evidence is brought up against you, you spend jail time, because you actually spend time in jail, because that's a thing. Bounty hunters go out and try to slay you. So if you're a criminal, and you're known for doing whatever you've done, say you've stolen a bunch of crops, or you've killed a lot of innocent people, whatever the case may be, a bounty hunter will go after you. That bounty hunter finds you, and he either captures you or he kills you. Either one will bring you to trial, and when you're standing for trial, depending on your type of convictions, you will go to jail, and you will spend time in there, and you have to actually sit in the jail. You have to spend time in-game. You have to sit there for the allotted time. Some people have been known to be in jail for 12 hours, but that's also because in the alpha right now, there is an ability to report players for suspicious activity, and given how much suspicion they get, it can, you know, give them jail time, which is kind of a fault. It's a, you know, faulty thing right now because people can abuse it, but those who abuse it are also going to be drastically punished as a result. But it just goes to show how everything is player-driven. Everything is player-driven. Okay, everything a player does influences the world in a very dramatic way, and no other game actually offers that, aside from EVE Online, like I've said a bajillion times. So I mean, ArcheAge, I know I'm kind of like hyping it up and talking a lot of praise about it, because, quite frankly, it's something I haven't played before, and it's incredibly addicting. And like I said, I've been looking for an MMO to offer an experience like the original vanilla WoW and Burning Crusade, because everything after that kind of, the game got more casualized, as I said before. You know, it became a little bit easier for things to happen, being able to buy mounts at level 20, you know, things got a little bit too easy. And this game retains the hardcore nature of it. For example, I did a trade pack run. I had to walk through like 3 provinces, if you want to call them that, the huge environments, you know, every province or state, whatever you want to actually call it. I had to travel through that, walking through 3 of them, which took like 30 minutes to an hour just to deliver a trade pack, because as you're walking with trade packs, you move slower. You can see me right now as I'm carrying stuff, the materials I need for this dry dock to build my harpoon clipper. I have to carry trade packs. I have to forge them, I have to create them, craft them, and then carry them, and you move slower. So picture walking through large amounts of terrain from one location to another, carrying those things that slowly. You have to obviously utilize carriages if you want to get there faster, make your timings count. It's actually a little bit more difficult than it may seem, or you can just, you know, take the time out of your day and walk. But if a player stumbles across you and kills you while you're doing that, your trade pack is dropped and they can steal it. And there's real risk and reward in this game, which no other game really does in a way like this. PvP is open-ended. It happens everywhere, no matter what. Like that earlier clip you saw where I was fighting that one random player, he came out of nowhere. Twice. He already killed me the first time because he came out of nowhere while I was like kind of busy looking at a billion menus and not paying attention to what was happening in the game. So inevitably I died. So I went out looking for him again, couldn't find him, decided to continue questing in the same area I was in. stumbled across him again, which you saw in that clip, which was when I killed him. That happens everywhere. Like, people can literally just come out of nowhere while you're questing and just kill you, threaten you, steal from you. It happens, you know, and you need real protection, and you need people to assist you in those things, or you just need to be very crafty and know exactly what you're doing. So the real reality of risk and reward is there. You risk the chances of sailing across the ocean with your trade pack to make a lot of gold on the other side, or different types of coin currency if you so desire, to go spend it on a special island called Mirage Isle, which allows you to buy various types of house designs, blueprints, ship designs, etc. That kind of thing. And you risk getting stampeded and swarmed and raided by pirates who are going to kill you, destroy your ship, and take your trade pack, and they're going to profit from it. Real risk and reward, which this game does incredibly well, and it's something that's really, really exciting and just simply amazing. And I'm only beginning to scratch the surface. I'm a level 30 now. I've built my ship. I have everything I need. I've experienced a bit of PvP. I'm starting to get the taste of what it's actually like to be a higher level in the end game, as I'm mid-game right now, as I said earlier in this video. So the whole thing is just awesome, simply put. If this doesn't sound compelling to you, if this doesn't sound interesting to you, then I don't know what really will. I mean, it may not be your type of game, which is completely understandable because everyone has their own preferences and type of games, but if this looks interesting to you, you have no reason not to give it a shot, because it's going to be free to play when it releases completely. And even now, like I said in my past video, I spent $150 to get into the alpha. $150 US, which is $168 Canadian. I already feel like I got my money's worth. I do not regret spending that at all. At first I was skeptical, because I was a little like, you know, I really wanted to play it because it looked interesting to me. I wanted to play it really badly, so I forked up the cash, downloaded it, began to play it, and gradually over time, I'm starting to realize that this is easily one of the best MMOs I have ever played in my entire life, if not the best. And this is coming from World of Warcraft and EVE Online, and those games are obviously known for being incredibly popular and very well designed and structured. ArcheAge, coming from a Korean foreign company, is turning out to be something that could possibly be one of the best releases in the Western world since good old classic World of Warcraft. And I know that's kind of like a very... Some people are going to say they hated World of Warcraft. I understand that. I played WoW during its inception, so about a few years after its initial release, when Burning Crusade was just starting to come out. And I thoroughly enjoyed the crap out of it. I played, like I said, like over 10,000 hours in that game. I have a lot of hours in that game, and it resonated with me in a huge way, and I really, really enjoyed it, and I've been looking for a game to give me that old school feel of what it felt like to play MMOs back then, and this game is doing it with a brand new graphics engine, CryEngine 3. It's running off of CryEngine 3 with all these new mechanics, with player-driven economy system, with wide, massive open PvP worlds. It's something I haven't experienced in any game, and it does it very, very well, and I'm looking forward to playing the shit out of it for years to come. And once my friends get in on this game, which hopefully they will be as excited as I am, once they start playing it, when it goes free to play, they may get an understanding of what it's actually like. They'll understand exactly what I'm talking about, and then the game will become even more fun because you got your friends to back you up in every scenario. You can do things, you can do trade runs together, you can own a bunch of ships, go on galleons, all kinds of things that can be done in this game. And it's incredibly fun and exciting. So my name is PepperBelly. Thank you guys for joining me on this video. My impressions of what this game is, what it offers as it stands right now in its current alpha. Obviously it still has a ways to go because the beta is going to be coming out in June all the way through August. Rumored release date for the actual game is end of August and early September. So be sure to be on the lookout for the game if that actually turns out to be true. And remember, it's going to be free to play, so you have the ability to try out the game and see whether or not you're going to enjoy it. Again, thanks for watching. Take care, guys.